to be streaming live on JJ Media on YouTube. You can share the space, you can share the link as well. Invite your people. If they cannot listen, there are people that do not have a Twitter account, but I'm sure they have a YouTube. They have access to YouTube. They can go there and listen as well. I'm sure there are people that do not have YouTube and not have access to YouTube. I'm sure they can be able to access internet. We have a link, a Google link, where you can be able to listen. It's like a radio. Once you click on it, you'll be listening to it live and direct. So all the link will be put on the Jumbotron in a bit once I'm done speaking. Thank you so much for joining us, Maazi, the founder of Ginger Media. Thank you so much for joining us, Valentine Ozigbo. So Valentine Ozigbo, I'm not going to be the one to introduce him, I beg. My two co-hosts will be the one to do the job. I think Woyemi is here, Jack is here as well. You are going to be the ones to do the job. And again, you are going to respect them. I'm not going to be doing much talking on this space. And this is the honest truth. I'm not going to be doing the much talking on this space. You people are going to, every question that you have must be answered today. Remember, we'll have less than 2 hours to go. So everything we have to speak, we must have to speak through the time, within the time that you will be given. So thank you so much for joining us. Please retweet the space, share the space wherever you belong, any WhatsApp group, any group you belong to. Thank you so much, Jack, for joining us. Jack, good evening. Can you hear me, Jack? Good evening.
Yes, Mazi, I can hear you loud and clear. Good evening. Yes, I can hear you. Good evening, everybody. Good to be here. Good evening, Mr. Val. I'm happy that we started right on time. So yeah, let's have a good conversation tonight. So thank you, Mazi, for having me.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where to start from, but so I think it's better for us to maybe to wait for more people to join us. If there is anything, if there's anything, Jack, you want to chip in, so that more people will join us, so our guests will start speaking, we can move ahead. So as I met my two co-hosts, Wayme, I think you're a co-host now. So if there's anything Jackie wants to chip in again on this issue, then before I really need to maybe to clock maybe 100 people or 200 people on the space before our guests will start speaking. So Jackie, can go ahead.
Yeah, okay, Mazi, thank you. So personally, I really think that this space was scheduled yesterday. So those that ihe gbasara insecurity na ala Igbo, are the people that are really interested in having the conversation, specifically about asking Mr. Val question. I believe they would have gotten the notification. So yeah, we have to start up the conversation while others join us. Meanwhile, once again, Mr. Val, thank you so much for joining. Good evening, everybody. Good to have you on the space. As much as I would not say that Southeast is, the part of the country with the highest insecurity, incidents, we can all agree that there has been increase in insecurity incidents across our region. Just recently, I think yesterday, we had one reported case in Ebonyi State, and even though I'm not able to confirm, those behind the killings, we also heard there's another one in Enugu, I think today also. These are pockets of incidents. Some of them go pretty unreported. There's a lot of kidnapping happening, particularly in Imo and Anambra states. There's a lot of killings going on across our region. So, onye ọbụla ihe gbasara ala Igbo na anụ ọkụ n'obi, would really be interested in this conversation, because for me, there's really nothing much you can achieve in an environment, that is not secured. So, the basic responsibility of government, as far as I'm concerned, is security of lives and property, even before you talk about welfare. Because someone didn't do, are people that are secured, people that sleep without one of their eyes open, or how be here gonna quarrel about every other thing, every other type of development. So yeah, Wayemi, I don't know if you're here now. You might want to say hello to our listeners before we dive in right into the conversation. Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. Am I audible? Okay, I
Yes, we
just
can
want
hear you. Yes,
thank
yes.
you. Good one. Thank you so much for joining this space. Please share the space so we can get more listeners and speakers to join the space. The conversation is on the TL insecurity in the Southeast. And today we will be having the conversation with none other than Valentine Ozigbo. He will be giving us his perspective, his ideologies regarding the insecurities going on in the Southeast. If this is something you are interested in, and I do believe you should be interested in this conversation, Southeast or not, I always say the fire doesn't have to happen in your house for you to be interested in the fire happening next door, right? As citizens of a country, people, people in society, conversations like this should definitely interest us. So, without any further ado, if this is something you would like to partake in, or you know someone that would like to partake in this conversation, do well to share the space. As Mazi has said, Engage Media will be streaming over at on YouTube. Yeah, I will get the link and drop that on the Jumbotron so you can also stream on YouTube. If you're not active on X, or you know someone that isn't active on X, please share the link to them. You have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account. Once again, share the space so we can get more listeners and speakers to join the space. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can. I mean, we can just start the conversation right away. Mr. Val has been here already, so Mr. Val, can you hear us, sir?
Very well. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Mazi, Jack, and Waimi, and all the other participants. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So let's go right into it. I mean, even though Valentine Ozigbo, it's a very well-known name, at least in Anambra politics and by extension Nigerian politics, right? I don't know if there are young people across the country that would say they don't know Mr. Val Ozigbo, but let's assume we have a few listeners here that are not aware entirely of who Mr. Val Ozigbo is. Could you, kindly, just a quick introduction of yourself and what Valentine Ozigbo, represents, just before we go into the conversation. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to interact with our people from the southeast and all over Nigeria and beyond. So, usually introducing myself is one difficult thing because you really don't know what to say. Valentine Ozigbo is my name. I'm from Amacy in Aguata local government. I I grew up in multiple villages. Was born in Umuomako in Orumba South and started school in Oguntijebe around Orumba North as well before I returned to Amacy to finish up my primary school and secondary school also in Amacy. And I was literally in villages until I gained admission to study accounting at the University of Nigeria, where I made the best result there in the faculty, in the department. So I had my MBA in University of Nigeria and qualified as a chartered accountant, became a fellow of the institute, and also with multiple other bodies, including Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. I eventually gained Chevening Scholarship, went for my second master's in England, where I had distinction in MSc Finance at Lancaster University. Enrolled in Global CEO program, which I did in three universities, as BS in Nairobi, ESA is a top school in Spain, but at the New York campus, and Lagos Business School, where is a program we call Global CEO. I was in the inaugural pioneer class. I was voted the president of the class, which I am to this very moment. This is a bit about my academics. I'm a career banker, a corporate executive, having spent almost 30 years there. Spent about 18 years in banking, rose to the level of general manager. I was head of international banking, head of global transaction banking, head of embassies and multilaterals, head of offshore liaison, and I was involved in development of financial institutions in different countries in Africa and beyond, and became the CEO of Transcorp Hotels PLC. I took the company public, and in 7 years, led a major transformation of the hotel. It became the best business hotel in Africa and one of top three Hiltons globally. And I was voted CEO of the Year twice in Spain and in Greece in different years before I became the president of Transcorp PLC. Then duty call came. I thought about how we can change our society. What do we do to stop all of these negative narratives about person where it can be most impactful? And doing that in Anambra would be fantastic. So once I turned 50, I quit everything I was doing to sacrifice the rest of my life to serve in the public. And that's when I ran for Anambra governorship and won a coveted ticket of PDP, um, comparing, given that there were over 25 people who showed interest in that ticket, about eventually 18, about 21 or so or 18 bought tickets, and eventually I came first. Then in the main election, I almost actually won that election, but for a number of things that happened, I came second in the main election. And this time around, I am running again to be the next governor of Anambra State. And I was actively involved in 2023 election, supported P2B actively, and one of the top leaders of the obedience. And this is who I am. I'm involved in a number of other things, in philanthropy, in sports development, entertainment business. One of the owners of Merry Men, top movie in Nigeria, one, two, and three. I am the chairman of Fit and Tricks, which is the number one promoter of freestyle football in Africa, and I am the only black person on the world body. I have also chaired Unusual Praise, which is the biggest Catholic gospel event in Africa, and led to bringing it to Anambra in Onitsha, where we've now hosted it for the fourth edition. And a few more things to talk about, especially in my philanthropy works, which I think I've done more than enough introduction. So thank you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Val. I mean, that was a very elaborate and at the same time very short and precise introduction. I mean, that CV is very rich and huge. I'm sure that those that are listening, some people didn't even know some of the things you just mentioned. So I specifically and intentionally asked you to introduce yourself so they know who they are speaking to. All right. So let's get right into it. I'm happy you mentioned the fact that you've been involved in Anambra politics. So basically, this means that you understand Anambra in and out, at least as a candidate, even as an aspirant. You must have traveled the length and breadth of the state. You have your foot soldiers, you have leaders, you have stakeholders across the state, and of course in other parts of Southeast as well. So I will ask you a very direct question. What would you say is at the root cause, like the root cause of the insecurity in Southeast? Maybe using Anambra as an example, because I know that you are, I mean, you have your ears everywhere in the state as someone that wants to run for office. So what would you say is the root cause of insecurity in Anambra and in Southeast in general? Thank you.
Well, let me say this. The real intention of this meeting tonight is for us to have a deep reflection about this problem that is hemorrhaging our entire space. Is a major concern that um, I have, and I believe every single one of us do have. It is something that is honestly heart wrenching. It's unfortunate. It is a destroyer of our zone. It's a catastrophe of high magnitude, something that we all need to put heads together. So I don't want us to turn this really into a question and answer. I get it right. We didn't answer it well. Let's all brainstorm here. Let us think deeply about what this issue is and what to do to overcome it. And I have done a couple of engagements, interviews, videos, write-ups on this issue of insecurity. I I know a couple of people may think I'm just doing it from a political standpoint. I am concerned about this. It's a problem I wish we had given adequate attention. And then let me go straight to responding to the question. I think at the heart of every problem that we face in this black world, at the heart of every problem, insecurity inclusive, is what I simply call leadership failure. It is leadership failure to honestly, honestly provide opportunities for young people, provide a source of hope, to provide faith in and trust in government, and to provide enabling environment for private sector to thrive. That is the fundamental cause of insecurity. Whether this leadership failure is what is happening at the center, whether it's what is happening at the region, or what is happening at the state level, all of these factors, when you really look deep into the issue, you find that insecurity is a manifestation, is a direct manifestation of leadership failure. And the way to also look at this is to think of then how do you solve it? You can also solve it by looking at the issue of leadership. How do we provide the right leadership that will inspire hope, that will make people believe that there is a future for them? And that way, you're able to eliminate people who are accidental criminals, those who jump into criminality because they don't see enough hope, they don't see reason to be hopeful, they don't see a future ahead, they don't know where how the next meal is going to come, and so they end up there. We separate them from those who are born criminals, that even when they see food, they'll still be thieves and criminals. And because until you do that separation, you don't know the magnitude. It's when you now understand this and actually start to inspire people, let them feel and believe that there's a future. That's when we can actually eliminate um, the chaff from the wheat. And if you actually now look at particularly the southeast, the number of other factors that have led to all of these issues. But the key and the core at the center of it all is leadership failure. Um, some have attributed the rise in recent time to issue of agitation. Some have attributed it to the prison break we had in Imo State and when criminals were unleashed. Some have attributed it to just some people who have also come from external influences, who are in our bushes and ravaging and creating the whole environment of kidnap. Some have also attributed this to just some politicians who are running for elections who armed some thugs for political purposes, and after the election, unable to, find alternative, and because guns are now in the hands of criminals, they use that to earn a living criminally. Some have also attributed this to failure at the family units, when our society has decayed morally, and so we're no longer able to, you know, sniff out people who are living large without showing any proof of income. And we actually now celebrate criminals because they are throwing off money. And a woman will no longer ask his son, where are you getting this money from they are spending? But rather will rejoice that his son has bought a car. Even a secondary school boy can buy a car and the money is rejoicing without asking, where is the money coming from? That decay at the family units, value erosion at the core base. So there may be other reasons. I don't claim to have all the reasons. But what I say to everybody is, whatever the reasons are, I don't wallow in blaming. Oh, is this person, is this politician, is that person, is the Fulani people, or is the people from other states, is the people from other tribes, or it is agitators. No, treat criminals as criminals. Show leadership. Make your zone uncomfortable for criminality. Create a law and order society. And that's another thing. Even the way some people have governed their states actually fuel insecurity. There are cases where even to conduct local government election is a problem. To conduct a PG election in town is a problem. If you're not from a particular um, party, political party, you may not be allowed to become a PG of your town. And just from that, you start to have insurrection, communal issues at the base. And once you create a lawless environment, insecurity will thrive. Some have also attributed this to empowering the courts, people who are from different courts, just giving some of them revenue platforms and others feeling, why not ours? And there are court wars, tribal wars, issues like that. Some have to attribute that even to how we have entrenched thuggery, Akodo principle. You now use people who criminals wear the put uniform in them, and they go chasing IGR criminally, and by so creating a lawless environment. So it add other factors to what I've listed. But again, the really conversation we need to have is, how do we solve all of this? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Uh, Jack, do you have a follow-up question for that, or you just I would rather just head to the speaker section. Mm, okay. I know Jack is
Yeah,
here.
I guess that maybe I should ask one or two questions to Papa.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
But hold on, Maggie, before you continue, please note each speaker has one question. You're entitled to one question for now because we are expecting a queue. For now, you're entitled to one question within a minute. Feel free to still, come back to ask question, but would like for this space to rotate and have every speaker on the speaker section speak. Listeners on the listener section can also come up to request the mic and um, ask the questions. If you are shy to speak, feel free to use the comment section and I will read your questions. Thank you. Mercy, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So, Sir, I want to ask you, because after the prison break, which you mentioned here, and some of the prison break that happened in the southeast, some group of people gathered themselves together and said that they want to chase Fulani men out of the southeast. Could it be that it is because of this gun that was carted away from those boys and gave to people on the street are the reason we are facing what we are facing in the southeast now? How will you come in this regard?
In fact, you're going into the type of discussion that I usually warn against, um, which is to look for other people to blame but ourselves. I've just explained this to everyone. At the heart of all of this is failure of leadership. And so I don't want us to think that our insecurity is more external than internal. As a matter of fact, there are more criminals today out of Anambra, out of Imo, out of Ebonyi, out of more than the external ones. So I want us to shift the entire responsibility of the solution to the chief executives of the states, to the chief security officers of the state. It is the reason why, even among the five states in the southeast, what you find is that you can actually rank them in line with insecurity. And so it's only where the governors are sitting up and doing the right things that you suddenly find out that those guys get uncomfortable, move away from that state, and relocate to somewhere else they're comfortable. That's a simple proof to you that insecurity is directly responsible, proportional to the failure of leadership. So it is. There's a report that Emeka Umar Balasenko did on the flow of blood in the southeast. That is really damning, where they have attributed cases of insecurity, about 65,000 victims with over 35,000 deaths across the five states in the southeast, over, I believe, a period of about 3 years. And what is shocking about that report is also what I spoke about uh, state actors and non-state actors. So there are also cases of abuse of power by the state actors, those that have responsibility to secure us, govern us, doing the wrong things. But at the end of the day, what is this CEO, the chief security officer of each state, doing? That's what we need to focus on. And also, there's a major part. How do we get them to all collaborate, work together in synergy, so that you don't chase them in Imo, they come to Anambra. You don't chase them in Anambra, they run to anywhere else. How do we ensure that collectively we institute a system to raise the level of security across and among the states in the Southeast? Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
If you are done with your question, I would like to go to the speaker section. Or
Yeah,
if you don't
I
mind,
wanted to maybe you should take more speakers, so I will ask him.
yes, I was about to say that if you don't mind, we can circle back to you. I don't want anyone feeling jaded that we are just making it a co-host host thing. So I'd rather work with the speaker section for now and circle back to you. Please, if you are on the speaker section, do also raise up your hand. I will establish a queue from those who have their hands raised. First person on my list would be Senior Man of Nigeria. Good evening, Senior Man of Nigeria. If you can hear me, do also mute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. I don't know. Mazi, can you hear me? Because I've been having network issue from my end. I don't know whether I should drop and come back.
You're audible.
We
You
can
are
hear you.
audible. If you can hear me, you are audible.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Good evening. Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Honorable Valentine Ozigbo. It's a privilege being with you on this platform. Okay. Just a quick one. My two major concerns has to do with the high rate of insecurity, which Maizi has highlighted because of recent the insecurity issue is mind blowing. When we talk about the issue of the unknown gunmen, the Fulani herders, and what have you, and the issue of the ranching in the southeast, nobody knows where on or the angle in which the person should even focus or more on, or where the actual problem is coming from. Because of lately, you often see times where situations whereby we have people that go outside Anambra to do some certain events which are not proper, thereby making Anambra to look as if there is helter skelter everywhere. So I don't know, you as an aspirant, which surely I know that you will contest, what are your plans? And secondly, the terrible condition of Anambra roads, the federal roads in particular. What is also your idea or your plan about it? Because when I talk about insecurity, you also talk about the bad roads that are in terrible condition. From the Amansi Road, Federal Road, we only have one lane there, to the capital city, Amobia or Karada, is only one lane. The other lane, every year in, year out, you often see people just pour stones there, level it, abandon it, give it under 4 years again. They will come and repeat that same thing, or perhaps postpone that to December. And it's so shameful and it's so embarrassing that we have South leaders that oftentimes know that some of these things do happen and they keep quiet. And when you complain, they will tell you that it's not their job, it's the work of the federal government. So you, if finally come November, at the end of the day, you happen to be the governor, will you to an extent handle some of these situations, which is really, really affecting me, somebody from Anambra like me, and perhaps some of our brothers here from the southeast in particular. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Um, I I shared two videos that I made some time ago with Maz earlier, and asking him maybe it's useful for those who may not have gone to my YouTube to view this video to actually take a look at my position when it comes to insecurity. Now, because we're getting to a part that I'm more interested in, how do we solve it? Not looking for who, what, and whatever to blame. How do we solve it? Whether it's coming from different dimensions, how do we solve it? And to solve it actually mean we should look at who is the right person to solve it. Number two, what is the level of political will the person has in solving it? Three, the methodology, the ideas of solving it. And these three areas we must deal with. Most times, people would like to go straight into promises. Oh, this is what this person has in his manifesto. Most times, we're often disappointed when we focus on promises without thinking about the promiser. There are certain people that get into office, you know from day one, this person doesn't have the capacity or the equity to solve the problem. And this is something I want to spend my time emphasizing because if you get it right from day one, from the core, then there's no need to expect magic going forward. You see, I usually quote this part in the Bible. and people don't understand why I quote it. That is only when good people are in power that the people will rejoice. That's Proverbs 29:2. How do we focus on finding good people in power? What does it even mean? What is good person? And I have tried to explain this in many fora to explain that it is actually your level of emotional intelligence that is will define your goodness. And so I changed that: seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and every other thing shall be added. To say in politics, in leadership, seek you first emotionally intelligent people in power, and every other thing, including security, will be added. Because if I open my mouth and tell you this is what I will do this, I will buy drones, I'll buy CCTV, I will do all of this. And another person says even more things I've said. How do you make a determination who has the will, the mindset, the DNA, the I don't know else, but the summary of it is the EI, the emotional intelligence. And let me define what I mean by this. Emotional intelligence consists of three things. At the core of it is who you are. Are you who? Are you somebody who, first of all, understands himself, does not lie to himself, that's authentic to himself, that respects himself, that humbles himself, that listens, and all of that? Your personality, your character is at the core of your being emotionally intelligent. Number two is your respect and fear for God and your fellow human being. It's almost like the same thing. Love God and love yourself, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. But let's maybe we're using too big words, too many big words. Love, love, love. No. If you don't can in love, respect, and show some empathy. So if you're not a good person who is worried about the life of a fellow human being, you cannot solve insecurity. It must start from there. Who are you? Most of us here are Igbos. Onyeka Igbo, kedu ụdị mmadụ Igbo? That's the core of it. So if you just go into, wow, what will it do about insecurity? And I, blah, 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 I will do this, I'll do that. You're missing the point. I want us to start from this core. Who is Val? What kind of person is he? Is he somebody that is hurt, touched by the deaths, that's worried, because it's until you're such a person, even if you don't know what to do, you will find the solution. You go to the land of the gods to find solution. But be that person that fears God and respects fellow human being. And before you can approach equity, you must also approach equity with clean hands. Before you can solve insecurity, you must approach insecurity with clean hands. If you are blooded, if you are a criminal yourself, if you won't chase away your colleagues, you will even create room for them. So who are you is the core of it. Because I'm begging every single one of us here. This may not be what you want to hear from me, but I'm telling you that's the core of it. We make this mistake sometimes by expecting too much from wrong people, and we don't know that the blame should go to us who have not even understood how to find the right people. Finding the right people is at the core of the solution, both at the federal level and at the state level. Who are you? I have managed Transcorp Hilton, and we emphasize issue of security in that hotel. I won't come out here and talk about all we do there, we did there in my own time. But I can tell you, I have worked with the best when it comes to tackling insecurity, particularly when our country was ravaged by terrorism. It's still happening. And so we've engaged the best, the Israeli embassy, the US embassy, the UK embassy, and High Commission, and then worked with DSS, the Army, the Navy, the Civil Defense, the police, and rest, and what have you, to see that we make the hotel a hard place to hit. And that is the mindset that I want to bring to the issue of the Southeast. And there are things that we have to do commonly, generally, synergistically across the Southeast. And there are things we can do individually as states. But the core of it is who are we? We need right people across all the states so that we can actually solve this sustainably. Before we then go into what are those things we need to do, I had a meeting with one of the governors in the Southeast, and I was impressed by what they're doing because that's the way I would have solved this problem from day one. And he says to me, Val, you can't kidnap in my state and go free. One of the state governors in the Southeast said this to me because he had assembled a core of people that he can say to himself, I have confidence in. He assembled them, he spoke to them, he engaged them, he empowered them, he trained them, he equipped them, and he's also paying them well. And now he has challenged them. If any issue happens in this state, you must get to the root of it and solve it. And so, in the first 1 year of his administration, there were a couple of kidnaps. It happened. And he didn't say it won't happen, but that you will not go free. And every single one of the cases, he got to the core of it, including arresting the kingpins that are operating from outside of the state, those in Lagos, and one of them in South Africa. He made efforts to see that they were arrested. This is happening in the Southeast. And I asked him how, and he told me all that he did. And imagine that you have such in different states, and then you also have one, um, a coordination center where they're all speaking to themselves. And there are consequences for every action. You create a level of accountability such that even a commissioner of police will know that his job is tied to solving the problem because everything he has asked for will be provided, judiciously utilized, not everything like quick. Because sometimes when they think that you're too bothered, they can create room for theft and all of that. But solve the problem, provide what they need, challenge them, and punish them when they've done the right thing. That's where we fail as a country. You can murder in daylight and get away with murder in Nigeria. We have to get to where we are. There's no more conspiratorial silence. We are holding everybody in check and accountable. When we have such an environment, then we talk about the leveraging technology. I mean, imagine in this era that all these people will pick up telephone and be negotiating. You know where they are. You know the bank they even pay money to. You know the currency they're exchanging. You know where they're going to pick it up. And you can solve it. It's a lie. We can solve it, and some have solved it, and some should learn from those who have learned, who have done it. So there's a lot we need to do in that regard. And in Anambra, for instance, I said to people, if you actually mount to see where they've moved into, and you can go there and decimate them there. You can use AI approach. You can sprinkle stuff and neutralize them instantly. There's a lot of things we can do, but you can only do it if the killing one human being matters to you. If you know the value of human being. But if you're, for instance, a murderer, what does the death of 10 people matter to you? That will matter to you. I'm not calling anybody a murderer, but I'm just giving using it to buttress the point. And sometimes our people are so wicked that they're actually murderers, even if they have more than any human being. So, you got a murder for you to solve this problem. Oh my God, those GMO, those are criminals that can solve problems. I laugh when they come to me and say, Val, you're such a good person. And we don't think you can. We need somebody who can take the fight. No, no, no. You need a zero man to solve it. A boy criminal to chase these fellows. No. So let me stop there. I think I'm talking too much.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay. Again, if you are on the speaker section, do also raise up your hand. I will establish a queue from there. Next person on my list is Valo Mogulis. Over to you, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Honorable. My name is Elanya Orum Eke. I actually met you at Civic Center. I want to believe either late last year or early this year. We were introduced by a gentleman that works with you. So my question is coming from a place where I myself, because I travel to the East fairly often, we've encountered several instances where there were near misses or close calls with some of these uh, agents of insecurity that we keep talking about. And what I find is there's well-known axes around where they operate, and it seems that despite all the talk, I've seen several initiatives, but it seems like there's not enough action that is being done. So one of my questions, and I agree with you that the person in charge plays a strong role. But one of my issues is that does it require all being in political office, or are there things that can be done outside of the political office, whether from a private sector capacity or whether from a community perspective? Are there other ways that this issue can start being tackled? While obviously I know that being a governor would give you more access and more tools at your disposal, but I'm curious about what can be done on a more immediate basis from the private sector, not just by you, but by other people, other private individuals and other communities in that area to reduce the instance of these issues. And my second thing, or just to throw that in here, just because I know there's a rotation, is how is it a good idea? Because there's been a lot of conversation around state policing and community policing and federalism or regional policing, different ways of they all line up on that restructuring. But how do you think that that would be a positive direction? Do you think that those things will help to tackle this issue? Because I've seen this ESN thing that I don't really think has helped in any way. So, how do you think about that conversation as well? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ike. I do appreciate this intervention. Before I come to you, let me go back to the last person because there was a rider to his question that didn't attempt, which is on roads. So clearly, road infrastructure is a major need we have, and particularly you mentioned particularly the federal roads. And what actually is disturbing to me is the issue that I've learned now we're having, particularly on the Enugu Onisha Express Road. That is one road that I feel that I should have been a standard for the rest of the roads we have across the other state lines, the federal roads. If we're able to solve that road and also deal with the one from Onitsha through Newi down to Imo State, Akoko axis, and solve the other one from Enugu down to Umuahia and then down to Port Harcourt, and link the ones as well from Imo um, to Abia, and from Imo also to Port Harcourt. If we solve this, you connect properly, and of course get into Ebonyi as well. You will make logistics easy in the southeast. And if we are also able to deal with the issue of port infrastructure, we will make our zone very competitive. And if you then match it with solving the security problem, Southeast will be the heaven. It will be the best thing that has happened to this country, and it's every single one of us. Let me go back to that road on the Shenugu Express Road. This tax credit scheme is an innovation of the last administration, previous administration. I think it was even Goodluck Jonathan administration, then Buhari. If there's one thing I know that I could say he tried to do well, maybe that. I'm one of those who was grossly disappointed with the 8 years of Buhari. But with that particular initiative, where they're actually saying to themselves, we governments are criminals. Why would private sector take their tax to go and pay to them, and they will inefficiently utilize it, and then public good suffers? Why don't we just take it direct? So MTN decided that they are going to undertake Enugu Onitsha Express Road, and so they became the contractor, meaning that if they were going to pay government, let's say 30 billion, I don't have the figures with me off head here. They're going to deploy that 30 billion to fix that road. And I have an idea what they wanted to do on that road. They actually wanted to make it best in class. They'll have all the bandwidth along the road, meaning that businesses can thrive. And imagine you are on that road and you have 5G network or some incredible speed, and you see that it will bring other ripple catalytic effects. So, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, sometimes political, they haven't really taken off. And when I engage some of them, I'm deeply worried. And I said, anytime I see the former governor of Ebonyi, the minister for works, I'm going to beg him to, whatever the issues are, to solve that problem. The idea of they want to now change the contractor or subcontractor shouldn't arise. Whatever the issue, let's solve it and get it moving. If we do that road the way I envisaged it's going to be, and we're able to use that to deal that standard to deal with the rest of the federal roads in the southeast, honestly, um, we can begin to feel the impact, what we usually call dividend of democracy. Now, let me go to you, Mr. Eke. Um, we can make efforts on individual basis, on community basis, to solve this issue of insecurity. And many people are doing so. There are a lot of people who have armed vigilantes in their communities, who have bought vehicles, CCTVs, guns, and all of that. But we are not equipped in doing this, except governments. And we have seen how local governments literally don't exist. So state governments have usurped the role of local governments in the major part of tackling insecurity, because we need to take governance to a local level for us to solve this problem. So what we saw was a case of you have solved the insecurity in a bit in one town but is unsafe in the next town. It doesn't make sense. If um, we did something like that in my village in Amesi. We got some well-meaning people. I contributed, others contributed. We did that. But if you want to now pass and Umuchi is unsafe, or so Ezinifte is unsafe, or Guy is unsafe before you get to Amesi, it's rubbish. So we've got to solve it commonly, and that's why I also emphasize on regional approach. And I'll come to that. Government has an important job to do in designing the architecture and seeing how the state can then plug in. Then those individual efforts and community efforts will be impactful. So, but that does not stop those efforts, because those efforts are a way of reducing the criminality in those local communities. In fact, without the involvement of the locals, you can't solve the insecurity. What we found out is that in some of the communities where these criminals are harbored, they have gone into bed with the criminals, such that even when you have genuine efforts of security agencies, you see army and police, they will chase a criminal into a town, and then you stop and ask the town, where did they go to now? There's a car that just, the color is this. They're looking at you. They're not talking to you. They're not giving you any information. In part because they don't even trust the security agencies. In part because they've gone into oaths with this the community and saying, um, we are in this together. In fact, we're going to leave you guys. We're not going to hurt any person from this community. But the moment you report us, we're going to kill you. We're going to come after you. So they also use blackmail, fear, intimidation. And so what we now have is an organized conspiracy of silence. And there's no intelligence that can be actionable. So that is a major part. And that's why in solving this, family will be involved, the churches will be involved. I said to our people who are highly spiritually inclined, by the time you actually lift them off those oaths and let them know that they're no longer bound by anything that they have been forced into, they will see some freedom to be able to speak out. But they also need to have a security agency that they can trust. They'll be there to protect them and not expose them and make them vulnerable. So there are things we can do in our individual capacity, but it's not sustainable enough. The only way to solve it is to solve as a whole. And that brings me to the point you made about state policing. I'm one of the major advocates of that state police, but under carefully guided system to prevent abuse. If it's an era where nobody can even hold the governors accountable and they become small gods, and you can see just for them to organize local government election, you can see what happened. Imagine when you now add security there. How do we solve this problem of accountability? How do we make our people be less selfish, less self-centered, and be able to show courage to be able to ask, you know, speak truth to power and hold people accountable? And until we get to that level, I think we can have a combination of that orientation, law and other environment enforcement, and then having that right architecture. I would like to, as a governor, brag that Anambra is safest because I have the best police in the country. I would like to brag about that. And so, because I know the importance of security, and anybody who is coming into Anambra, whether you are from the north, from the west, from the east, from the south, you will shape up. You will know that this area, we mean business, because for every action, there must be consequences. So that's how, without creating a police environment where people are no longer free to, no, just creating an efficient system that can help to track this. So that's what I can say in that regard. And now there's something I put out 2 days ago, I think 2 days ago, on Anyoha, a group of people on peace and security initiative came together and they tried to figure out how best to solve this commonly across the 5 states in the southeast. So they developed technical solutions, political solutions, legal solutions, and funding solutions around insecurity in a manner that can be sustainable. And I see deep thoughts that have gone into this, and they're able to create a control system that can unite the five. It will require adoption by each of the 5 states. It will require each of the 5 state legislators to pass common laws that will then bring it all together. It will require seriousness of the state government to provide consistent funding that can be tracked and monitored. It will require a lot of political will, but that's a way to go. It's something we need to encourage. So I was lending my voice to encourage governments, traditional rulers, and other stakeholders to buy into this because with that, we can actually have a Southeast that we can be proud of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Val. A lot of points you've made there. I agree with some of them, even though I usually, personally, as an individual, when we're discussing issues of security, for me, I look at it from a broader perspective. Yeah. Specifically, I personally believe that the issues around security, the first person I blame, or the first arm of the government I blame is the federal government, because I feel for whatever reasons our security is still centralized, and they get the larger chunk of FAC allocation. So I actually expect federal institutions to do more, right? Because I do not agree that I personally believe that the basic responsibility of the president of the Federal Republic is to protect the lives of Nigerians anywhere they found themselves. So as much as sometimes we want to point out some of the things our leaders are not doing well, however, I also believe that the issues of security is too much of a serious business that we should actually leave in the hands of government alone. Someone talked about what we can do as individuals. I personally believe that our local communities, our vigilante systems in our towns and the unions. For example, what are our Igwes doing? What are our PGs doing? Basically, I grew up watching my father as one of the security men in my town, Nanka, and I know that at the time there is no way anybody will come and do anything sinister in Lanka and get away with it, because we had a very sophisticated security apparatus, people paid by the towns. Again, I ask myself, why are those structures no longer in play at the moment? However, I want to point out something that is very important to me. I was in Enugu last month, and for the first time I saw the state government command and control center. Beautiful idea. I saw cameras in bushes, some of them as much as 15 kilometers away and all of that. The SA, kind of ran us through what the command and control center does. And I really, really liked the idea. However, I think that where we are lacking behind is not just about buying, technologies or deploying technology. I think we haven't really paid attention to what do you call it, intelligence gathering. And intelligence gathering works with data. It works with numbers. I'll give you an example. The whole of Southeast as at today has only 9.1 million people with NIN, according to NIMSI database. That's what we have. Kano alone has 9.2 million people. So first of all, Anambra as a state is projected to have over 8 million people living in the state. Enugu about 7 million or thereabouts. And I know other states like that. And so if we have only 2.5 million people on NIMSI database in Anambra. How do you even secure people you don't know? Because again, what we now have is a situation where one person in a family registered into the national database, and every other person in that house connect their number to it. So criminals are able to link their NI to their phone numbers to people's NIN and all of that. So government is not even paying attention to data gathering. You're not paying attention to database. How do you run a state where you know that there are approximately close to 9 million people living in that state, but you don't even know them? They are not identified in any way, shape, or form. So for me, I see chaos, happening, and these are things that what are the people in the other place doing better? Is a situation of investing in these things, but in our place we don't invest. So I see a challenge with data gathering. I see a challenge with what do you call it again? I see a challenge with you know being able to identify our people is a challenge that we need to resolve, going forward. And I hope that eventually when you become the governor, you will actually look at that aspect of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. You are making very valid points, and I tried to summarize most of what you said. I started by telling us about leadership failure, and I said about from federal down to the state. Because I am not focusing on becoming president of Nigeria, we're talking about what can we do? Because um, what if the president doesn't eventually do what we expect him to do? What can we do to make our own side of you know where we are from better? And what I found out is that even though we have central management of all this, you can actually solve this problem much better if you pay attention and not look for who else to blame. The best thing I do in life is to take full responsibility, even for what somebody else is to be blamed for. If I want to solve a problem, I assume full ownership of that problem. I will blame myself that there's something I can do to solve this problem and then find a solution to it. Let me remind you some of the videos I've done. I actually mentioned I wish we were even able to play that video. And I emphasize one of the things you mentioned here, intelligence gathering. And I even said we can institute a, a way of anonymously gathering information. But what we now have is a case of where people are scared to provide intelligence for retribution effect. How do we create a whistleblower system that can report people and we're able to then synthesize that information for those who may want us to report the people they're in dispute with? Because it happens. And there are even cases already in Anambra where some people are claiming that they were framed. There's a case now in Enugu getting somebody approached if um, two people are dragging who owns one land. One will go and report to that this person is harboring criminals, so they can go and demolish his house. And without the government checking properly, is this true or not? Are there evidence to demonstrate that this is? And again, that's why sometimes hush approach without proper investigation can lead to abuse. So intelligence gathering is important. If you really call it important, I'm trying to have a literal translation of it. If you think it's that important and we invest our time, resources in it, I can tell you it can yield a lot of things. I'm also a data person, so I love what you said about knowing who we are, knowing the demographics, knowing the numbers is so important. And that's how modern societies are now being governed. They precisely get information to the nitty gritty. They understand the needs of the population. be able to track people. And there's some of these things you have to do commonly. Now, let me end by saying, let's go back to there's no problem we're talking about here today that we haven't been accustomed to in the past and solved in the past. Let me make a particular reference to um, when Peter B was the governor of Anambra State. We also had a lot of insecurity then, the Bakassi era and all of those. What did he do? How did he solve it? He has repeated this over and over. And I found some of what he had done interesting. And my intention is to learn from some of our leaders what they have done and ask myself, what more can I do to improve on what they have done? Because sometimes the scenarios are different. Maybe the criminals are more hardened these days. Maybe the type of gun they use. Maybe there are other maybes. So, but at the basic, what did they do right? What can we learn from those? When Peter B was governor, he made it clear that he first went to the president and identified who he wanted as commissioner of police in his state, demanded that this one be removed with all these other ones. Bring me this one, and so he can engage better. And now that is leadership. He, I'm impressed that in our case, I have again spoken about some of what our current governor had failed to do, and I don't know. Suddenly, last year in office, he suddenly woke up. How an AIG of police from Benue was posted to Anambra State, Zone 13, and how he spent his first 1 month, second month, third month, he had never seen the governor. The day we met, and he was lamenting, and I was shocked beyond my marrow that he made this effort to see a governor in a state ravaged by insecurity without success. That was shocking to me. And I asked him, so how are we dealing with insecurity? And later on, Honorable Mbatu, um, Nigeria Henry, spoke about how they were doing a budgetary review. And even the amount of money budgeted for homeland security, the amount of spend as at the time they were doing the review was zero. And the question I started asking, so what were we doing with the security votes? My point here is that we, when we fail to pay attention and when we also fail to be the right person to deal with these issues, this is when the insecurity will metastasize. And so, again, what did Peter B do? He then involved the locals, the communities. He created a pause, a budget, and partnered with the local communities. If you, as community, identify some security personnel, vigilante boys, they were on government payroll, and they now expected the community to match that payment. That was a fantastic way of involving the community. And he provided vehicles. He also had security votes that the Igwes were getting. You utilize these resources appropriately. And when he then focused on the issue of consequences, and when any criminal is identified, he will stop at nothing until the person is hunted down. Combination of all these factors, Anambra became the safest, according to the IG of police then. So why can't we replicate this? Compare this with what I said about what another government has done. What I'm saying to you, this is not a rocket science. It can be solved by, first of all, being the right person and doing the right things. And these are the quick wins. I'm focusing on things that we can do as quick wins and solve them. But to now sustainably solve them, we need to go back to the issue of our constitution and federalism as state police, and maybe look at also our maturity level, and again put gaps, stop gaps to avoid abuses by the governors. Thank you.
Right. Am I audible, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. I believe that settles that for Jack. Let's take another person. Chinonso, over to you, please. Chinonso Kafe.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, good day, everyone, and good day to you, Valentine Ozigbo. Um, Let me start by saying that 10 years ago, that was 2013, when P2B actually left office, or when he was about to leave office. I can remember the governorship debate during those period. It was mostly centered around economy and infrastructure and probably education. But 10 years now, I'm sorry to say, if there's going to be another governorship debate in Anambra State, 90% of that debate is supposed to be focused on security, security, security. That is a major issue we as Anambra people are facing right now, unlike 10 years ago, because then P2P was able to secure the state. And 10 years now, we're having this problem of security. 4 years ago, when you actually campaigned in PDP, I think then you were in PDP, and you campaigned against Soludo. Most of you guys couldn't even campaign in Anambra State because of the security crisis then. I'm sure it was just a little bit of Soludo that was doing one or two campaign. Most of you were in Abuja, Lagos, all those kind of places campaigning because the security crisis was quite terrible. And sadly enough, I think we are still having those security crises right now. There's something I really want to like delve into, and that's to deal with the ideology around this insecurity that's happening in Anambra State. Now, I watched one of your interviews on Arise News whereby you say that you are championing for Nnamdi Kanu to be set free. Probably you feel like if he's actually released, probably it will douse the security tension in Anambra State because you feel probably you'll be able to separate criminals from the agitators. So even though I don't actually believe in that point that you made, because to me I feel Nnamdi Kanu has done lots of stuff that actually proves that he's a terrorist. Because even the sit-at-home menace, to me, the way he went about it is the way a terrorist goes about it. So, but I want to ask you now, because I want to deal with the ideology behind this insecurity in Anambra State, which Soludo actually faced when he entered there. And I don't think he handled it properly when it comes to the sit-at-home menace, like that money sit-at-home, which he actually said that been costing the state more than 17 billion naira per day every Monday. How would you have handled that situation of the sit-at-home menace in Anambra State if you were to be governor? What would you have done to have stopped it, and what time frame would you have stopped it? That's my first question. My second question now is those criminals parading that they are agitators that are now operating within that Ihiala axis, Ihiala local government axis, Lilo, all those Mbosi, whereby they've carved out territories in those local governments. They are collecting things like burial tax. People cannot go home to do marriage. They are collecting marriage taxes. They are sometimes you chase them away, they come back to that community and they cause more catastrophe, they cause more havoc. So how are you going to deal with that challenge? And in what time frame are we going to see you're going to meet? Because what I want us to deal with now is specifics. What time frame are you going to deal with that challenges? And if you're going to be a governor, how much percentage of your budget are you going to like set aside for fighting insecurity? And my final question then has to do with thuggery in Anambra State, like all those people that goes about harassing innocent traders on the streets or drivers, collecting all kind of illegal taxes. How are you going to handle that situation? Thank you very much.
Sorry, what's your name again?
My name is Shinonso Kafo.
Chinonso. All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Chinonso. Um, let's get to the first point you made about the interviews I've granted And the point you made about Mazen Namdekano, you don't think that maybe he should be released. Um, and dealing with the issue of sit at home and how I would deal with that. First and foremost, in 2021, yes, towards the election period, insecurity kind of escalated, but it's nothing near what we're experiencing right now. Um, I was able to visit every single one of the 21 local government at least 7, 8 times each. I was mostly in Anambra, so I didn't campaign from Abuja. Let me just correct that impression. It's gotten worse now. But you're right that if we're going to have a debate now, it's going to center more around insecurity. And we have reeled out the consequences, the statistics of all of this whole mess going on. And yes, Soludo also hasn't handled this issue well because I see a lot of arrogance. I don't see any form of engagement and dialogue. And that's the two areas I believe I will be different. The first area is that I am not a criminal. I don't know, and I'm not going to say Soludo is, but I'm not one. I will inspire hope. I will inspire freshness. I will, what I tell people, there's some things, there's a grace that goes with good personality. I'm not going to boast that I'm an anointed of God, no. But I'm saying to you that just even who you are, your ability to engage, to listen, to dialogue, to engage some of the people at the leadership levels, the communities, you can actually solve a lot of problems. When a problem is half known, that problem is half solved. But if you're what we call Ezo Nyagwanam, nobody speaks to you, you will lack the ability to solve the problem. And that's how you suddenly will go and tell people you must open your shop. In fact, if you don't open, there are consequences. Well, anything put in place. I am also going to provide leadership, execution. I think through action before I voice them out. There are a lot of leaders who are good at using those fallopian words. And unfortunately, Soludo is one of those. And this is what happened even in his era as central bank governor. I don't want to center this around Soludo, but because you raised certain points, I need to make that point clear. When Soludo became governor, he made a very big announcement. If you raise your capital bar to capital um, shareholders fund to 25 billion naira as a bank, you're going to be part of those that will manage Nigerian Reserve and other incentives. And banks were killing themselves, combining in some cases criminally. Some will go and use their depositors fund, give loans to customers, and they use those loans to buy their own shares, and hoping that when shares would increase, the share price will increase, they kind of float, and everybody makes money. And that's that became more or less the order of the day in some of the cases. And what Soludo failed to do was to strengthen regulation in central bank. So when they go and do what they call capital verification, they go, they bribe central bank people, and they go back and sign and certify. And by the time the shares, instead of increasing, they started declining. What you find was the banks started collapsing. AMCON was set up to solve this problem, and today AMCON has become our biggest liability, and it's traceable to somebody coming to make big announcements without thinking through. Sometimes even Donald Trump makes this announcement. You will impose 25% tariff on China and Canada, not thinking through. Sometimes the British people, they will exit from Brexit without thinking through. We must think through things. How do we intend? What are the consequences? What are the outcomes? That's not what we think through. And that's a big, major execution is it. Policies, people can read out and get some lawyers to write stuff. Thinking through execution, you must be able to say to yourself, how will I solve this problem? And and that's what I intend to do. Um, you've asked for specifics, timelines. I mean, almost like a jam question, but I'm not here to solve a jam question. When we sit down and we get the right people and we go into proper security strategy session, we will come up with actionable timelines that are pragmatic. So I'm not going to be forced into telling, oh, within 6 months I'll solve it. My brother, that's not the intention. You will see a governor that is committed, that means well, that is from day one will not sleep until the problem is solved. And God, if you can solve it in 6 months, fantastic. If we end up moving up to 1 year, okay, but we will solve it as quickly as possible. And that brings me to, again, this issue of sit at home. It's something we need to end. And there is a way, by the time you raise the level of security awareness, intelligence gathering, empowering the people, getting enough resources, devoting enough budget, um, then you go into the dialogue to see how we can end this. See, because there are actually some genuine agitators you can perceive. And that's why I would push for release of Nnamdi Kanu. I may not agree with all his steps and all the things I said, but I can tell you that Nnamdi Kanu is a lesser problem than the government that mismanaged the problem. Yes, he would say, open his mouth and say a few things that may be inclined towards increasing the level of criminality by some elements who were taking advantage of this. Because what we started seeing was some criminals would just go and unleash terror on people, hiding under the cloak of we are IPOB. However, separate, and that's why don't you, first of all, release him so that you give no excuse to anybody anymore for the criminality and deal with any criminal you see on ground at this point and even possibly engage him, make him part of those that will be responsible for solving the problem. I would do that. And you may not agree with me, I'm sorry, but that's my own belief. But by the time we sit together, we have a governor that listens and engages. We will then be able to say to the market people, we are ending this is at home. We get the leadership of IPOP, the official one. We have their lawyer, for instance. They know how to assemble them. And hey, guys, here is the consequence of this. This is not. And by the way, the reason for it is even over. Mazi has been released. Now we have to end this so we can restore the competitiveness of our zone. If we do this and every governor latches on, I think we're going to have a better Anambra, a better Southeast. And I don't know what else you've mentioned that I haven't responded to. On those areas, those those high intense criminal areas like the Ebonesi in Ihiala local government, Ebonesi, the likes of Lilo, Mbosi, Osumogu, Iseke, and those people have made those places their home. We can dismantle all that. We can solve that problem. And you will need active participation of federal government. You will need to deploy a lot of resources. You need to deploy air, land together And you also need to involve the communities. And there are a lot of important personalities from those areas who, by the way, have helped us to solve these problems in other places. You cannot talk about ending the agitation in Niger Delta today, in Nigeria, without the active participation of Alan Onyema, who is from Mbosi, in one of those areas. Sit down with such people, bring in a combination of private sector initiative and government initiative. We will find a solution to the problem. There's a lot of things that I may not even say publicly here that can be done. But I'm saying to you that once you have the right person and the will is there, the solution will be there. Thank you.
Sorry, well, if you don't mind, let me just throw this
Sure.
question so you can round up. So you mentioned about raising Nnamdi Kanu. Now I want to ask you, sir, how about those that Nnamdi Kanu have ordered for their killings and those people were actually killed? How about the family of those people that died because of this issue, because of this ordering, the police people of this world, those police people that Nnamdi Kanu ordered, kill them at the checking point, and they were actually killed. How about their families, those victims of this crime of Nnamdi Kanu? What are we going to do for them? Do to them?
My brother Chinonso, I do not condone any form of violence, criminality, and everything that is wrong will be condemned. But I'm also saying to you, how do we solve this problem going forward? How do we solve this problem going forward? There are actually abuses by state actors. Does not justify such rants. However, in fact, until you, I will urge you to go and read the books about the flow of blood in the Southeast by Emeka Unabalasi. You will actually see that sometimes the federal government has also a case to answer, even though I will not approach it the way Mazinam may have approached it. But my brother, you can wallow in the past and keep looking for hope. I'm looking for solution to make progress. And I'm saying to you, we can end the criminality better. If you have a better solution, I'm open to your solution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next person on my list is Ugo Lotana_UG. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'll be brief. The host of this Mazi, I think he owes me an apology because he's hosted series of spaces on insecurity, and I have come up to speak on those spaces, and he has accused me severally, him and the likes of Doggy, that I'm playing politics with the insecurity in Anambra State. Wow. But I didn't say any different thing from what Val has been saying on the space, telling us how he's going to solve the insecurity problem in Anambra State if he becomes governor. But Mazi has been silent since Mr. Val has been giving us his dossier, telling us how he's going to solve the problem if he becomes governor. Mr. Val is not playing politics with the lives of Indian Anambra. Mazi is shut. His mouth is shut up. So I think Mazi owes me an apology before I now ask Mr. Val a question. My question to Mr. Val is, do you think Soludo has been playing politics with the insecurity in Anambra State? Because he had close to 3 years. Next month, March 7, it's going to be 3 years to do some of the things we in the opposition asked him to do. Some of the security measures we advocated for years. Number one, was getting security gadgets for the security agencies in Anambra State. We saw some of the vehicles Willie Obiano provided when he was governor. The cameras, the trackers, and the rest of them. That a reverend father had to even join his voice when his brother was kidnapped and said there's no common tracker in Anambra State. They had to go to Enugu to get the assistance of the Enugu State governor. But now, few months to election, Soludo has rolled out um, Operation Dogachi and the rest of them. So I want to ask a question. Do you think he was playing politics all along? And what is your opinion? Then secondly, my second question. Professor Obiora Okonkwo recently on AIT said some of the people recruited in that agency were political thugs. They were thugs recruited to intimidate the opposition because of the coming election. So I want to know your point on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, you and Mazi should sort your issues outside of this space. Let's focus on our solution. I beg you. But I actually like the point you've made in the form of a question. I am one of those who have also made this clear. We've got to speak truth to power. Democracy thrives when it is indeed is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Soludo is not our boss. Soludo is serving the people of Anambra, and we can call him to order when we think he's misstepping. And in this issue of insecurity, he has failed in the Anambra, categorically failed in the Anambra. And anything that's trying to do can easily, whether or not it is, can easily be a political stunt because there's no justification. He has to even first come out and apologize to us for having failed us in the first. And what was shocking was what he's trying to do now in his third year. The governor in Edo State, who we now say that cannot even read budget, did in 100 days. In 100 days, he had procured vehicles and armories and all of this. And imagine how inspired the people there in the police and other forces can be trying to tackle these things. But if you make a mistake of engaging any of these leaders in DSS, in army, in police, and if they tell you the experience with Governor Soludo, you will shiver. Honestly, and if I'm forced, I'm going to say more things, but I don't want this to be a propaganda conversation. That's why I shifted more about solution. I am extremely disappointed with what we have done in this regard. In fact, I said to a couple of people, if not for some of these failures, I probably wouldn't raise my arm and say I want to run for governorship. I honestly, I'm not desperate about being anything politically. But when we see the way Anambra was wallowing and the intimidation and fear, I said, no, 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 no. This nonsense has to stop. Some of what is even being done now, and some of the ideas some of us suggested, that ought to have been done all along. And guess what? Some of them also done wrongly. So I don't know. I haven't investigated. But clearly, where could he have recruited these people all of a sudden? I think he's just changing uniforms, some criminals and thugs, and their codos and all this. But maybe there are also genuine people, good people among them. So I wouldn't want to just flush everybody in the same brush. No. I think that what is important now is that we have a proper law and order environment, an environment of accountability where things are done well. And when things are done well, people are commended. And when things are done badly, somebody must pay a price for that. Nobody gets away. Nobody gets away with criminality. in Anambra State and in the southeast. That is the environment I want to see. And when anything goes wrong, when these people also solve this, reward them, the agencies, call them, pat them on the back, and say, well done, pay them more. And when they're not doing well, demand for their sack or redeployment. Beg the leaders, Abuja, we go to Abuja instead of us to leverage our relationship. A lot of us have connections because Soludo has been central bank governor. So he knows Tinubu, he knows all of this. Use that better, not for political purpose, to solve our problem. Say, oh, Mr. President, please remove this person because we need, and not because of political, because we want to win re-election, because we genuinely care. What is even worse is not even that these things are happening, but it's happening, and what is the response? My brother, I can give you tons and tons of the cases that will shock you, where you see complete lack of empathy. You see, I was with Igwelilu when his house was being burnt, and a year after, there was never a single phone call from a governor to the Igwe to say sorry. How much more a visit? How much more a statement? I went to see Igwe Iseke in Oka when he became a refugee because they burned down his palace. His father was also Igwe. All the relics of the Iseke people gone. And 15 days after, I went to visit him. And he's the vice chairman of Traditional Rulers Council. So it's not just an unknown Igwe. The governor has never bothered. In Oka, where governor's capital is, that's where he was harboring. Not even a phone call to Igwe, sorry, I heard what happened. Or make a statement, or visit Iseke, or do anything. Even the case of when governor's wife, some daughter was wedding, and they went to Abuja, somebody was involved in a kidnap. Do you know the commissioners and people that work with God contributed 400,000 each for the rescue of that person? The governor has not bothered to even refund the money to the people who contributed. When it happened in what's it called, um, um, Nibo, he went instead of going to the Igwe Ezike, the fort of Nibo or key stakeholders, he went to the market to do a campaign. When it happened up to today, maybe the some of the people who are top people, Big Ben or Honorable Justice Azoka, who have been kidnapped now and not yet found, has he visited the families to say, okay, sorry, we're going to do our best. When I can go on and on and on and on and on. Where is the empathy? We have to show seriousness. And but because we need these things to de-escalate, to be solved. And I yield. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's keep the conversation going. Please, if you'd like to say anything and you are on the speaker section, raise up your hand. Thank you. All right, I'm going with Andre Okibo. Andre, over to you, please. Andre. Is Andre there? Okay. If Andre is not there, I will go with Hammer of Hammer of God. Hammer of God, are you there?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm right
You're
here. Thank you
welcome.
very much. Yeah. So good day everybody, and it's nice to have Mr. Val on the line. First and foremost, I'm a member of IPOB and I reside here in the United States. Um we're heartbroken, of course, with the extent of insecurity in Anibo. But I like what you've said so far and the contribution of a whole lot of other people. But I think it's also important that we, when we are having this conversation, we, you know, give background and context to how we got here. Um, I'm very sure that during the time of Obiano as governor, what we're having in Anambra State, in terms of insecurity, wasn't to this extent. In fact, it was even nothing compared to what we have today. We had Rochas Okorocha in Imo State. There was nothing of insecurity. Yet, IPOB was, of course, in existence at the time. We then had Emeka Ihedioha after the...
Hama, can you hear me?
Yes.
You will make it short because we have lesser time now, please.
Mazi, don't worry. I know where you're going to. I definitely will make it short. I just want to give background to what I'm saying.
I'm talking because of our guest, please.
That's understandable. Thank you very much, Mazi. So we had Rochas Okorocha, and then we had Emeka Ihedioha, who was governor for just a year. We saw how things escalated from Imo State in terms of insecurity, how Hope Uzodinma descended on his political rivals, after Rochas made that attempt to open up the building that was sealed by the state's governor, which was Hope Uzodinma. Immediately he became governor. Now, that's how, insecurity escalated. We have a report of insecurity that was given by Chidi Odinkalo, Obieze Kwesili, and several other people. I'm sure you know that report, sir. What exactly have been done with that report? I'm going to wrap up with this so I can yield. When we talk about insecurity, I'm sure that there are long-term goals and there are short-term goals. I know that a lot of accusations have come even from people like Mazi. That's why he's quick to jump in to tell me he has less time. Have accused IPOB of instigating insecurity, but he has also forgotten that insecurity didn't start yesterday. It didn't just start. There's a precedent that led to insecurity. I wanted you to speak to the reports of Chidi Odinkalo, Obieze Kwesili. What has been done? I'm sure Soludo was also part of that organization that came up with this report. The DSS was involved, the military was involved, the police. In fact, the entire security architecture in Nigeria was involved. What has happened to that security report? Have it been acted on? And what's the solution going forward? We've also talked about many states. I'm talking about the 5 core states do not even have motorable roads. Local governments do not have motorable roads. So these are hideouts for all these people, hiding under the guise of agitating for Biafra. These people, we don't know them. And just for the record, I know that you've also advocated for the release of my leader, Mazen Namdekano. Just for the record, because you're here, I just want to state that we don't know who Simon Ekpa is. I've never been a member of IPOB. And for everything that he has done, we started raising alarm from the very onset. But people who were politically correct, like Dave Umahi, made it very clear, that he would bring a rival team that would become an IPOB, masculation to tackle IPOBs. I just need you to speak to all of these facts, and because it's important that I state all these facts out, so we don't further intensify and exaggerate things because the IPOB Southeast.
Hama, thank you so much.
I have finished, Mazi. I have finished.
Yeah, thank
you. All right, thank you, my brother. Actually, I'm not sure there's anything even for me to react because we seem to agree in most of the comments. You agree with the points I've made, and I agree actually with the submission. I am one of those who actually used to say that there were a lot of criminals that were hiding under the cloak of IPOB, and once we see those criminalities, we should deal with those criminalities and not give any excuse. And there are people who have openly identified as IPOB leaders that we could see them and engage, and that can actually help you in getting the intelligence you need to deal with the criminals. And unfortunately, when the leaders in different states fail, we keep looking for who else to hold accountable. I think that the moment you have genuine, empathetic, firm, resolute, competent leader who takes charge, and then we see how we also escalate things beyond just one state and find a common, regional solution, you're going to see a huge difference. And by the time we now come together, whatever is lacking that will need the support of the federal will be taken more seriously. I think that's the way to go. Let's spend more time on solutions rather than who to blame for the problems. Thank you.
Just to top this up, sir, we have a budget of
No, no, no,
1.13
no,
trillion for
Hammer,
the
Hammer,
Ministry of Interior.
Hammer. Thank you, Hammer.
All right. I think I'll have to step in here. Uh, I don't know. Seems like there's been some type of prior scuffle regarding Mazi and some people on this space. That's well and good, but I would appreciate it if this scuffle, internal beef, does not take place here. These situations can be addressed after the guest is done with his mission for the space tonight. There should be time and place for these conversations. Mazi can open another space and then these things can be trashed out. But for now, can we just stick to the conversation and not deviate far from it? Please let's call for decorum. And when Mr. Val and myself and others who are particularly stunned at the series of events that happen in this space and are very unaware leave, then Mazi can have a separate conversation about that. So for now, Hama et al., let's peg that for now, respectfully. Thank you. That being
Why,
said,
please, I just want to say this. Thank you very much. I just want to say this to Mr. Val. The Ministry of Interior have a budget of 1.13 trillion. What is the budget for the Ministry of Interior in the Southeast? The biggest prison in Russia, cost about $200 million. You know, if $250 million can build the biggest prison in Russia, and one of the most prison that houses the most dangerous people, why is it that it is difficult or cumbersome for the governors to build one prison in each senatorial district, to have 3 senatorial districts in the Southeast, to build even if it's just one prison of that standard with technology, everything that will house criminals, who we know are criminals. We talked about intelligence gathering. How do we also identify these people? It's not just to catch criminals and kill them. No, we also need to know where they are from, what village they are from, who's their family. We need to name and shame, because that's what happens in Nigeria every single time. We do not name, we do not shame. We
Okay,
just catch
okay,
people and we
okay,
eliminate them
okay,
without knowing where they are
okay,
from.
Hammer,
So I just
Hammer,
want you
Hammer,
to speak to that, Mr. Valentine Ozigbo.
Hammer. Let's respect the time of our guest, please, please. I didn't have any grudge about anybody. So, Mr. Valentine, are you there? You can pick up the mic. Can anyone hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
I guess it's no longer here. Okay, I guess Mr. Valentine is no longer here.
Jesus.
So, who is going next? Yeah.
Okay, the next speaker would have been Mr. Evaristus Odini Kaizi. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. Well, yeah, he was the last person on my bucket list tonight. I believe the space is ending by 11 o'clock.
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't even realize that I was muted. I was actually responding to the last comment.
Yeah,
Just
Mr.
Sorry
Ozigbo,
about, so sorry about that.
you don't have to worry about that. Let me just say what I want to say before the room ends. So Mr. Ozigbo, you know who I am. We met almost 3 years ago in Washington D.C. at the Umibo Unite, where we hosted you at the town hall, and you and I spoke uh, during the town hall and after. So I want to apologize to you because I said that either you or Soludo would have been good for Anambra, given that I was biased and I supported Soludo in that election that brought him. So I was wrong, and I apologize for that. Now, few months before the presidential election, the last one, I also organized with my friends. In fact, I reached out to, if I say the name, you probably know, but I reached out to her. She's in your team. And I organized to bring you to Clubhouse. So the last meeting you had on Clubhouse, about 2 months before presidential election, I made that happen. And I spoke with you in the space as well. But coming into this room, I want to say this thing very quickly before I ask you my question. And this is before you came in here. And most people who are in this room right now have heard me say this in multiple times. In the upcoming election in Anambra State, I am going to be supporting you. And I want you to do anything and everything in your power to secure a ticket in any of the parties. I would like it to be LP, but if it's not, I would like it to be PDP, but if it's not, if you can secure it in APC, do it. Okay? Because we needed to win this election. I explained to you, I'm a very proud Anambra grandson. My mom is from Ihiala local government. I'm from Imo State, on the border of Anambra and Imo. Um, so I have every right to speak, towards Anambra's politics, and I'm actually, an eligible candidate for any election in Anambra if I want to. So, but I want to say this in very quickly. Whenever you declare and hopefully secure a flag in any of the parties, I will make a financial donation to you. To your candidacy. That on the side. Um, I actually would also let you know that I don't want you to make your candidacy about Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is a federal criminal that's held by the federal government. So that crime that he committed is in a different jurisdiction. It is okay for us to forgive him. It's up to the federal government to set him free. Now, in the jurisdiction that you're going to hopefully become the governor of, you're going to take care of the criminals in that space. And I hope you work with other governors in Southeast to make sure that all these criminals are either contained or driven out of the Southeast. They can go to Abuja and face the federal government over there and hopefully secure Nnamdi Kanu or whatever. But Nnamdi Kanu is not the issue you're running on. Anambra State is slipping away. Soludo is underserving the state, and that's why you're running. Okay, IPOB is a terrorist organization, so I don't want you to make your candidacy a sympathizer or whatever with that organization. That said, hopefully when you win, you know, I'm a professional here, different experiences in different different disciplines and stuff. I would actually make myself available to help however I can to make sure that
Thank you.
your governorship tenure is very successful, at least in the service of not just Anambra but Igbo people. So that
Thank
said, let me ask this question: Would you be okay? Let me reframe that. Which parties are you um, considering at least, or having conversations with to make sure that you secure your ticket? That's the question I have. Nothing else.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Evaristus. I appreciate a lot of what you've said here, including the offer to support. And I thank you for your humility to um, tender apologies. Is something that's lacking here. Um, I was having this discussion with a couple of people who actually played a pivotal role to the emergence of Soludo. And I said to them, if you make any choice, um, the accountability is not just to the choice that was made, but those who have also made the choice. And because sometimes what I see is a case of people focusing on the wrong things, carried away by big names, big titles, and not asking who is this person. There are a lot of people who have big names, but when you go to their village, if you ask who is this person, they will tell you who he is. If you go to the places person has worked and ask who is this person, they will tell you. And if you get it wrong from the personality side, I'm sorry, then you actually now. I urge people to always do proper due diligence in taking any decision around leadership because that way, and I'm not here saying that I'm the best thing God has created. One of the things I pride myself is that I speak truth to myself, and where I'm weak, I'm bold enough to say I'm weak here. I need help. What can be done? But in the case of somebody who says he knows it all, acts like he knows it all, and nobody else should have an opinion, then we're finished already. Particularly when it comes to Anambra. You know how Republican we are? You know how successful we are? Why would they go everywhere? It's sort of big also. So you've got to, emphasis will be on personality, on service, on humility, on empathy, on accessibility. And that's the only way you can govern Anambra well. And so there are people, including some people who are actually moving around campaigning now, they'll be so wrong to be chosen because of who they are. And some of these things are default, we call it follow come. This is who they are. They can't change. But politics, power does not change people. It brings out the real who. And let me come to we will engage for. I don't know if we've changed numbers, but I'll discuss this further. I may really not agree totally with some of your submission on IPOB and co. And I'm not running on IPOB mantra. I want to solve insecurity, and if it requires me to engage in that regard, I will not shy away from engaging in that regard. And I feel that some of these issues are actually, you see, something a little issue when not solved can lead to other terrible issues. I actually think that Mazen Kano may not even have gotten to the point of using some of those strong words if the issues were tackled promptly and early enough. Almost like what happened with Boko Haram. Almost like what happened with Boko Haram. When this issue started and the way they seized their leader and dealt with the leader, it created room for things to now get to a level that became almost uncontrollable. What did the leadership do at the early time when these things happened? How was it even started? Who was responsible? Some of the governors will tell you their role in forming Boko Haram. What have we done to hold them accountable? Is when we now fail in this regard, all of a sudden we're raising an arm in the air. Oh, the problem is too much. Or even the banditry we're talking about. There are people that are known that took part in facilitating their coming into Nigeria and because of political reasons. Have we held them accountable? And that brings us to the issue of this IPO. Whether it's a terrorist organization or not is not what I want to dwell here today. But can we have a common standard? Why are the other similar bodies who have done even worse things not been labeled terrorist organizations? These are issues we must ponder and deal with because guess what? There are people who actually objectively, genuinely sympathetic to the real agitators, not the criminal people who are acting on the cloak of agitators, that we have to be concerned about. It is also a labyrinth. It's a difficult part too, because I believe in balancing. I don't believe in extremism. I believe that we must find a middle ground in solving this problem. One way, the only way is not going to work. Let's eventually come together, sit down, and deal with this issue in a manner that's sustainable. And I am more than happy to lead that conversation if God permits me to be the next governor of Anambra State. And let me go to the question about party. I have been all over the rumor mills in Anambra. Some say I am running under Labour Party. Of course, I'm in Labour Party today. Of course, I would love to be the candidate of Labour Party. Of course, we do have issues in Labour Party that's giving me a lot of concern. And I wouldn't want to become a governor and sacked on the account of the inadequacies, imperfection, and chaos, or something that looks like it in Labour Party. And so that has led a lot of people to say, okay, in the condition that Labour Party is in today, question about leadership, Abure is the national chairman, according to Court of Appeal, but there's also an appeal to that at the Supreme Court. How would that end? What if it goes well and Abure remains the um, national chairman? What if it goes the other way and Abure is sacked? What if Abure gives you a ticket today as Labour Party candidate and gets sacked by the Supreme Court subsequently? What is the implication? We've argued this, we've debated this, I've engaged a number of lawyers, including senior advocates, and some of them seem to opine that you will have a problem if Abure gives you a ticket and there is a judgment of Supreme Court saying that his tenure actually expired in June 2024, and every other thing he has done will be null and void. That would include your primary, because he's only a national chairman and secretary that will sponsor you as a candidate. Now that gives me a lot of concern. But the good news is that Anambra election is not really going to be a party-based election. It's going to be election along the candidacy line. Who are the candidates? Who would they trust to lead them? And for all intents and purposes, it's almost like the election has been defined as majorly between Soludo and myself. Not because I'm a superstar, because I ran against Soludo, and many people like you are in regrets. Many institutions, many church leaders, many Igwes, many market leaders are saying we made a mistake. It should have been you, Val. So that has helped a lot in pushing my momentum, such that if you conduct any poll today, my score will alarm you positively. And so when Peter Obi also ran for presidency, Soludo was on the opposing side. I was on the supporting side. That has also endeared me to the people of Anambra. So with these two factors and more, I am seen as a better alternative to what Soludo is presenting today. So if that be the case, it doesn't matter too much which party I'm going to run. If I run with a party that's even unknown, I have a chance of winning the election. But the question people are asking me, which party then? And when are you going to make that determination? I am having conversational. But what I do is that when they see me with somebody from PDP, there's a rumor everywhere that Val is like PDP. They see me with somebody from ZLP, SDP, ADC, there'll be a rumor that I've moved. They see me with anybody from APC, the rumor says that some people have said, don't be worried, you should even enjoy it. I said, no. I had to call one of the people who championed those. I said, why are you putting this out there without even checking with me? You have access to me. You know me. I think we're friends unless you think otherwise. If you have such rumors, check with me and can give you real reason. The fact of the matter is that I haven't actually made a decision. I will make that soon. I'm engaging. It's not a decision I'm going to take alone. There are decisions that are important that I must engage in taking that decision because it's about common good of Anambra. So if you're hoping that I will announce a party on this Twitter space, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But is this something I have to decide soon? Yes. Because primary starting March 20, many parties have already started lining up there. And the reason I am almost everywhere in Nigeria, in Anambra, in the southeast, is because I want to make sure we get it right. When we make the announcement, the good news is that I have a lot of institutions that are already backing me up, and their backing is party agnostic. When the obedience endorsed me in Anambra, when they endorsed me in Nigeria, they made it clear that it must not be a Labour party, it can be any party. So I love that. So I have the ability to move into any party and win the election, and by the grace of God. And I'm going to make sure I carry as much as people as I can along. And when that decision will be taken, I will engage my base. I will talk to the obedience. I will talk to my party, Labour Party. And I actually think that to win the election, to defeat an incumbent, we need some congruence, you need some collaboration. I won't see myself as a consensus candidate that can be. Because in PDP, I was the last candidate. And so I have a lot of my people in PDP. In Labour, I'm probably the most visible aspirant today. So I have a lot of people following me in Labour. In APC, there are a lot of people who used to work with Ifeanyi Oba, Senator Ifeanyi Oba of blessed memory, who are saying that there were three of you running for this election. You, their principal, Senator Ifeanyi Oba, and Soludo. And their own principal is late now. And there are now just two of you. And my principal didn't want this man to come back. So we cannot support him. And so we have, by elimination, we have no option than to support you. So I'm welcoming all those APC people. Let them come on board. And the YPP people, let them come on board. Even in ABGA, there are a number of people in ABGA that are so agitated, not just the likes of the camp of Edozie and Joku, which I welcome, even those serving and working with Governor Soludo because of his approach to governance. I'm welcoming everybody. Let's build a team, a force for good, so we can actually start the redemption of our homeland. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. I don't know how much time you have. Maybe you should send it to me so we can see. But before you go,
Are we there?
yeah, can you hear me? Wait a minute, I think Valentine cannot hear
Um,
me.
yes, uh I can hear you.
Okay, okay,
Savi, can you hear me?
just give me a moment. It can handle the room.
Okay. I think we should be rounding up now. I'm done with my response.
Mazi, if you can't hear him, he said we can round up now. He's done with his response. Mazi, okay.
Now, so can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes, I
I
can.
want to confirm whether Valentine can hear me. He cannot hear me. Oh gosh.
Mazi, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. For some reason, I don't know why.
Yes, Savi, he can't hear you, but I will convey the message. I have conveyed the message that you are ready to round up. You're done. So I think he's
I
switching
wanted to speak to
networks.
him about something, just to tell him that, to be honest, in his own opinion and my own opinion about insecurity or Nnamdi Kalu's issue, I totally disagree with him. With all due respect, sir, I disagree 100% with you, sir. If you can send that message to him or me, I'll be very happy.
I'm
I
still not hearing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay,
would have
Savi,
loved
can you
I would
hear
have loved
me?
him to hear
Yes.
me so that he's going to respond. Then we'll close from that play. I didn't know. Can you tell him to drop and
Yeah,
come back?
he's
Yeah.
not
Can you
here.
tell him
Yeah.
to just to drop now and come back?
Savi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Wendy.
Okay, so do you mind dropping to the listeners section and coming back up? Let's see if that can solve the problem and we can round up quickly.
So are you saying every other person is hearing Mazi except me?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
except you.
okay. So let me exit and come
Mm,
back.
yes. Mazi,
Yeah,
he
I'm here. Yes,
yeah,
I
okay.
just want him to
Yeah,
hear
so
it so we can round up the space, to be honest. So,
yeah, he has exited and he will come back.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm back now.
So you can hear me now, sir.
I can hear you now, Master. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. I was saying that in terms of everything I've said about Nnamdi Kanu and this security in South is about IPOB. I totally disagree with you 100. In fact, if there's anything 200%, I disagree. Everything that is happening started under Nnamdi Kanu, and today we are facing it. If we must solve insecurity in the Southeast and Anambra State, we must have to go to the roots of this issue. How did it start? Nnamdi Kanu started it. If you cannot be able to collect those guns from those people Nnamdi Kanu buy the gun and gave to them and call them ESN, that is when we have a that is where we have a problem.
What is the solution? What's the
So
solution?
the solution now is how to, I mean, tell our people, separate IPOP from our people. Those sympathy that our people have in these people, we must look for a way to separate it from them. We must look for a way to tell them that IPOP is not representing anything good about Indibo. IPOP has brought cause more than happiness to us, sir. With all due respect, I'm telling you, any preaching, any message you should be pushing out now is for you to tell our young ones that going into a crime all in the name of fighting for freedom is not the way out. These people have committed a lot of crime, bloodshed in Alibo, in Anambra. Anambra State, Mr. Abba can tell you, it's not like this before 2021. It's not like this before 2020. It's not like this before NSAS. We are here. It's not like this. So immediately Nnamdi Kanu did this, that is when we started having a problem. So as an elder as you are, and somebody that I love, in my honest heart, I love you. I wanted you to be a governor. In fact, I campaigned for you in 2021. But as an elder as you are, you should be able to tell our young ones, like people like us, and tell them that there is no road here. Yeah, you can do your agitation, you can do your IPOP in peace. But once you carry arms, you are carrying arms against the government. Government will no longer listen to what you are saying other than to declare you a terrorist. And this is what that brought us to here. So we will be able to tell ourselves the truth and our young ones. That's what I'm saying, sir. I disagree with you in terms of in terms of how to solve insecurity, in terms of what is going on between Africans. That's what I'm saying, sir.
There's
Thank you so
nothing
much.
to. I think there's nothing to disagree from what you're even saying. Your choice of words, I think, is not proper. Um, I will tell you this: if you start dealing with criminality as you find them, as you see them, the shaft will be removed, will be separated. Don't condone any form of criminality. I honestly think that we have more issue with leadership, not solving these problems, nipping it in the bud than anything else. It's easy to just say, it's this that's created all the problems. It's not actually true. It's not factually correct. But it's not a debate I want to go into in perpetuity here. You've invited me here as a guest. I've shared my opinion. There are ways to actually communicate the disagreement, not 120%. I didn't quite appreciate that response from you.
Okay,
You can disagree without them disagreeing.
I apologize for that. I'm just saying the way it is in my mind, but I apologize if you feel offended. I totally apologize from my heart. But when it comes to, I'm very, very passionate when it comes to killings in Alibo. And if I see some people supporting it, some people, if I see some, sorry, if I see some people.
It will also be wrong to say, because when you see some people supporting, I
No,
cannot
no, no, no.
support
I'm
such
talking
people.
about if I
Yeah,
see some people, I'm trying to refer to IPOP members, not you, sir. If I see some
yeah.
people, some group of from some group of IPOP members try to come up like Hammer will try to come up here and justify it. Everything that is telling you here is to tell you how IPOP is not
I'm going
responsible.
to engage you. I'm going to engage you further,
Yeah, yeah.
Mazi. I
We
want us
really
to be
need to talk enough.
open-minded.
We need to talk enough on this because this is a
Yeah.
real issue that we need to tell our young ones that there is no road in
And
this path. And this is the
Two
honest.
things.
Yes.
Don't worry. Two things. We're going to engage further on this. I don't shy away from engagement. I want us to deepen our knowledge. I will learn from you. You will learn from me. So I want us to be open-minded because I want solution.
Yes, sir. Once
And
again, I'm so sorry for saying 150%. I'm so sorry. I just said it the way it is in my mind, but I didn't know it would be an offense. I'm so sorry for that. But let's. I just want me to be honest. Everything I'm doing, I'm open to everybody for you to see my heart, right? I
yeah,
didn't hide
no
my
problem.
I didn't hide my hatred for IPOP because of what they have become. This me, and I have been like this for more than 2 years now. It's not a problem for me. I can gain a hatred for people.
And since IPOB issue appeared to be, let me even tell you what I've shared with one or two people who have engaged me on this. Let me say this here. I'm one of those who actually feel that if we even go through a referendum, I don't think the Igbos would go for separation. I actually think the reason for the original genuine agitation is marginalization, but it's also a loss of hope of a fair play in Nigerian project because maybe we usually when we bring on this quota system, you see that people are underrepresented in government and other things. But when you look back, you actually see that despite the so-called marginalization, we're actually better off than most other tribes in this country. And so what we need to look at is
God bless you, sir.
how do we
God
how,
bless you
how
for
do we have
God bless you for making
listen,
that
listen,
comment. I love the comment
listen,
you make.
listen. How do we create a more equitable country where merit will be order of the day, where our people will have a fair chance and not in any way marginalized because of where we are from. So that's actually my own personal belief. However, I am not one of those people that it must be my way or highway. When other people feel different, they have different opinions, sit down with them and educate them. So I've sat down with some of IPOP leaders to tell them this is actually, do you know that if we even separate, you still have issue between Ebony and Anambra, between Imo and Anambra. The answer is to solve the problem. When we just jump into it, and if you convince the Igbos that is the better that we can go through a crucial legal process. But to resort to criminality of any form is condemnable. However, when government also fails to do the right thing and they have to exacerbate the issue, we should condemn that as well. So there's enough blame to go around. But I'm not here this night to start looking for who to blame. I'm here for us to find solution. God bless you all, and good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming on board. Thank you so much. So sorry for people waiting, like Dr. Kenike. I'm so sorry. We have a limited time. In fact, I have to drag him. I know what I did. Even when he was not in Nigeria, I have to be calling him. Okay, you must come. Oh, you must come. But you go,
No, no,
doctor.
but we can let him make the final comment. Please, Dr. Kenike can go ahead.
Okay, okay, doctor,
Thank you
please go
very
ahead.
much. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I just disagree with you because for me, I'm from Anambra, Abumayon Dukok. My voting pattern, I'm a one issue voter this election. And it's whether you support IPOB or not. Once you support IPOB, I'm not voting for you. I'm even need to campaign against you. So it's my decision. I don't care whether Nnamdi Kanu was fighting for Igbo people or not. The point is that he produced, and I went to DMJ, so I find this insecurity thing argument very strange. I go back on at DMJ in the 90s. There's always been insecurity, but this is very idea that all of a sudden we are going to forget what he endorsed and pretend that he's an innocent. It's not
Am I the only one?
Hello.
Kenike, are you there? Oh my goodness. Kenike, you have waited for a long time for it to speak.
Well, he's breaking off. From my end,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
doctor is
yeah, yeah.
breaking.
maybe
Let me be quick. I'm at Wegmans. I'm at like a shop, so I'm not going to talk quickly.
go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
my
We
support.
are hearing you now. Go ahead.
1 minute. My support for any candidate is based on one, whether he's going to condemn IPOP or not. If you don't condemn IPOP, I can't support you. I'm letting you know. And I will campaign against any candidate that doesn't condemn IPOP. Because what they have done to the Southeast, they have created fear. And I'll give you a personal story. My mother's first cousin, she was attacked in Hiala. Her father is Professor Dewesi. They were going to the hospital to see her in the Navy. She lives in Apa. They came, attacked her. She's a medical doctor, her and her husband. They shot the policeman that she had, shot her driver. The reason why they didn't shoot her is because she's Igbo. They said, I am back. Oh, I'm the IPOP, man. That's it. So again, and I don't talk about other stories. So to come and exaggerate IPOP with all the nonsense they've done, I'm sorry. If you're not going to condemn IPOP, whether it's I can understand the migration, but if you're not going to condemn them, I don't think you deserve to post that position. And if no candidate is going to condemn IPOP, we will campaign against that candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let me just make my final comments for tonight. It's been a wonderful time with everybody here. I am happy that I'm on this space. It's always good to hear from the diverse opinions, and it helps us to improve who we are. And I want to thank my brother Keneke, who made his point about how hot and how badly he feels about the activities of IPOD. I am not here to speak for IPOD, and I understand his position about being a single voter, a single issue voter. And so, if you're looking for who to condemn IPOB and all of that, it's the basis for his decision. That's well and good. I am also not one of those people who is desperate to be a governor. I'm desperate to see a better Anambra. And so I will, without any equivocation, speak my mind. But there's something I need to say before I speak my mind. We must not keep making this mistake of thinking it must be our way or highway. It's a very wrong approach. This is what I believe. My knowledge of and my skill of emotional intelligence has made me to learn something about this life, about human beings. I do a lot of deep introspection, and when Jesus was with that case of Mary Magdalene, and people wanted to stone Mary Magdalene, and made a point. What Jesus did was to condemn the act, but not the actor. It is actually wrong to think that you've got to kill the actor and not killing the act. As far as this issue is concerned, I am totally opposed to any form of criminality, and I condemn any criminal act from IPOB, from any other group whatsoever. But to say that everybody in IPOB is a terrorist, a criminal, I would totally disagree with you tomorrow. There are some bad elements in it. It does not mean I am pushing for IPOB. I'm not a member. However, let's condemn commonly the act. If what I'm saying tonight will make me lose your vote, so be it. But I'm now telling you my position. Guess what? If you have a better opinion, this is why we have this type of conversation, so we can learn from one another. But it should never be your way or the highway. It's on that note, I want to say a big thank you to all of you. It's been a wonderful 2.5 hours here, and I would like to do this more. So, Mazi, thank you. I think Jack has left us. Thank you. And Wayme, thank you. May God bless you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, at least for coming on board. I didn't know when we were going to have you again. Mana. But I want to thank you so much. Just appreciate you at least for honoring the invitation. Well, thank you so much for that short invitation, and you have to come. Thank you so much. I do appreciate, even though not everything that I agree with uh, uh, my oga here, but it's our elder. We cannot say, oh, like he said, either way or highway. No, we cannot say that. But me, I'm not. In fact, to be honest with you, sir, I'm not comfortable with your position with Nnamdi Kanu and IPOP. And this is me personally, my personal opinion. I'm not comfortable with that. But let's have the conversation. Let's keep the conversation going because uh, at the end of the day, we are all Igbos. Our opinion can be changed overnight. As far as we are going to give you the fact that this guy have committed a very, very dangerous crime. Called IPOP members we are talking about. They will come and threaten you and carry out the threats. So there's no need for me to come and be harboring people that will be killing my own people in the southeast. You cannot speak your mind freely, like the way I'm speaking to you now, sir. I cannot dare talk to Nnamdi Kanu like this. Maybe tomorrow you will see my head on the road. So that is it. Is it the kind of people I will be coming up on a space to come and speak for? And tell me that, oh, not everybody on that group is a terrorist. No, no. Any atom of violence against Igbo is a terrorist for me. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I do appreciate it. I hope we should keep the conversation going, even on a YouTube channel of Njenje Media. Guys, go and subscribe to Njenje Media's YouTube channel. He's doing a very, very good job. Even though I do not agree again with the most of the things he said, but I see him as somebody that have an interest of Ndibo at heart, but must agree to disagree. That is me, and that is my own opinion. So thank you so much. I didn't know when you are going to come again, but we are going to dialogue this one on back channel if you are going to come, because we still have a lot of things to ask you, sir. But thank you so much, sir, for coming on board. I do appreciate. Hammer of God, if you like, thumbs down. Thank you so much, sir. I think you are free now to go, sir. Or do you have another word for us? Do you have a word for young youth in Anambra State or Southeast in general?
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Let me say thank you to everybody for this night, and we'll be engaging further. God bless you. Good night.
Ah, la, 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 la.